So the first thing we're going to do is look up at the lighting, how to set up a good stage for green screening, how to do it the right way. Then we're going to green screen something that wasn't done the right way. So there is our background, our green background. And the next thing we need to put in there is our actor. So we're going to have the actor with the green screen behind him, and there's the camera. So what we want to do is look at how to light this to get a good professional, the right way to do it. First thing you need to light is the background itself. So we're going to put 2 lights at either side. What you've got to remember is you've got to position the lights so the whole green screen is lit evenly. There should be no dark patches, no light patches. So there's our 2 lights, good distance away, so you know you don't get light blooming, because that's going to make it more difficult to do your keying, and avoid any shadows and dark patches. As you can see, if your lights are too close, this is the effect you're going to get, and we want to avoid that. So once we've got them right, and we've got no shadows, we move on to lighting the actual actor himself. So we've got the camera there, and we have a main light, which will be, you know, get at the right distance, so it's lighting the character naturally. Then a fill light at the other side to take out any shadows. You've got to remember as well, when you're lighting these scenes, it's got to match the scene you're going to chroma key it into. The other thing is an overhead highlight light, which is always good to use, so you get some nice effects, as you can see here, going around the edge of the hair, gives it a nice effect, and that's the highlight light. But obviously this is assuming that the lighting here matches the background you're going to put in when you take out the green screen background. That's the most important thing. Lighting has to match. The other thing to look out for is shadow. Make sure that the shadow does not fall onto of the actor, or any of the sets falls onto the green screen, because they're, like you can see here, you're going to get a horrible dark splodge on the green screen, and it's going to make it more difficult. So that's pretty much, you know, a simple correct rig, and should give you a good effect for when you do your green screen keying. That's what you need to avoid. That's the last thing you want. But, you know, do everything like I say here, and you shouldn't have any problems. So once we've got this all done, we move on to the next stage, which is actually doing some keying within Adobe After Effects. But we're not going to use a good green screen like this. It's going to be very poorly lit with dark and light areas. So now we come into the Adobe After Effects interface. This is Adobe After Effects 6, and we're going to start a new composition. Composition really depends on your project. In this case it's a 720 high definition composition, and we're going to drag our movie in which we need to key. So here it is. It's a green screen in the background there. Obviously this was actually filmed in 1080, so I'm reducing it down to 720. It's a really bad example of how to light something for chroma keying. You can see there's lots of different shades of green. You've got light areas in the top right corner and dark areas in the bottom left corner. So we're going to do the keying in 2 separate stages. First of all, I'm going to take the periphery of this shot and do a quick mask around it. I always like to do that to get rid of some areas before I actually key the rest. If it had been a moving camera shot, then obviously we would have to do keyframes and move the mask as the camera moved, and it's not really worth it. So let's create the mask, create it around the frame. To say, we know it's a static camera, so as long as we get around there, the only thing we need to worry about moving is the actor himself in this case. So what I'll do is I'll actually scrub through the shot and see if the actor actually does disappear out there. So I'm scrub through, and you can see straight away his head disappears. So we have to move that mask a little bit, and that's pretty easy, like so. So now we can see that the actor can move within the mask without any parts of his body or the chair or anything else in the scene moving outside of the mask, which is very important. So with the file still selected, we go into Effects, Keying and Keylight 1.2. which is what we're going to do to take out the green screen in the background. First of all, go to the screen color and use the dropper icon and click it on any part of the green, and immediately you can see that all of the green screen in the background is disappeared. That's excellent. No work whatsoever. Alas, it's not quite as simple as that. And we can see that once we pull in our background. And in this case, it's going to be the file here, which is the side of the aeroplane, the cockpit interior. And as you can see, when we pull that in, it's not a very good keying at all, because we can actually see through the chair, we can see through the actor, and the part that's I masked out, you can see a clear border. So what do? Well, first off, let me just readjust this cockpit interior so we get it to the right size for the scene. There you go. You don't see windows that big in an aeroplane. And clearly, it even emphasizes it more. You can see through the actor's shirt, the window. You can see the window behind the chair. There is some work to be done on this green screen. So what we do is go into the Keylight controls and change the view from final result to the screen matte. And that's where we do all the hard work. And here you can see very clearly that there's no clear black and white there in the matte. There's a lot of grey areas, and the grey areas is where parts of the scene is showing through. So what we need to do is to adjust that to pure black and pure white. And we use that in the screen matte controls, particularly the clip black and clip white. So let's adjust them, and you can see the white areas, we want a nice pure white, no grey in them whatsoever, round about there. But now we have to adjust the clip black areas to make a nice clear black. And there are other tricks that we can do. Let's have a little bit closer look, and you can see there's still some grey areas, so we can adjust it just to get a nice sharp edge between the black and white there. And that is so much better. That's definitely, you're going to see once we go back to final result, if you look close in, you can't see through my shirt, you can't see through the chair, where the edge of the mask is there on the left hand side. You can't see the difference in tone there. It is a much better green screen keying. A few other little adjustments we can also make. We have in the menu there, you can see that there is the grow and shrink options, and then the softness, the screen softness, which takes away some of the harsh edges, so it's not erased, it's a lot more smooth around the edges. And now we've done that, let's just play around with it a little bit. We've done the main green screen stuff, the keying work, so now we're just going to take this into a little bit of a scene. So I'm going to make this layer a 3D layer, and then I'm going to copy and paste the layer, so we've got two of the same, with exactly the same settings. And now, if I open up the sequence of the new one, and we go to transform, we can move this around the position, the scale, etc, etc. What we're going to do is we're going to move the position, but we're also going to move it in Z space, as you can see here. So I'm bringing it closer to the camera because we're going to have two different people sat in two different chairs, one closer than the other. So we'll just adjust it left and right until we get it right. So now what we got, as per normal commercial airlines, is two guys sat next to each other. Just happen to be wearing the same shirt, the same hat, have the same haircut, and doing exactly the same thing at the same time. But we're just doing this for a little bit of fun. And now we're going to make a third copy, and this is actually going to be just for the back of the chair, for the front of the scene. So again, we'll just move the position and bring that guy over to the right. So now what we have, we've got two people sat in chairs on the airplane, and just in front of them is another one. So just from one actor and one shot, we've now filled the whole stage. Another thing to remember when you're working with multiple layers is to name them in a meaningful way. So when you're manipulating them and doing various things, you know which one you're working on, because, you know, as you can see there, it's main sequence, MP4, etc. It just doesn't make any sense. It's not easy to play about with the layers. So before I go any further, I'm just going to rename them so I know which one's which. These are simple little tips and tricks and policies they can use that just makes your job a little bit easier. Okay, so with the layers now named, we're going to put some background into the plane. We don't want to be flying at night, not in this scene anyway. We want to look out the window and see some land. So that's what we're going to do. So I searched the internet and just typed in aerial shot from plane, or something like that, you know, aerial shot, and you get some nice cloud scenes and that kind of thing. And what I did find was this one on the internet, and it's the one I'm going to use. So as you can see, there's some ground detail there. We got some low-level clouds, and we got sky at high level. So we can manipulate that, as you can see now, from the window. But we don't want it static, we want it actually moving. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the keyframes for that layer to actually move it to give the impression of the plane moving. So we will position it exactly where we want it to start and move the time frame to the beginning, then click on the position keyframe on the sky layer. And once we've got everything ready, we start to move it throughout the time frame. And you can see another keyframe is automatically put in, and I'm just going to drag it about. It's actually moving it so it looks as though the plane is descending. So we're coming into an airport on this shot. Haven't worked out the script yet, but that's going to be the idea. Oh, look, we're coming into the airport. Oh, I think I'll scratch my head. So there you go. Not only do you get some good tutorials from me, some quality acting too. Quality of the level of, say, Arnold Schwarzenegger. So now we're going to make the windows look dirty. And I'm going to use this file here, and I'm going to place it in between the background and the cockpit, like so. And it's going to look like grime on the windows. Obviously, when you get in a plane, the windows are never clean. And we're going to try and recreate that so you haven't got a false effect on the windows. Gives it more realism. So let's get it to the right size. And generally, with windows, you find most of the dirt's on the outside, you know, the periphery of the window. So we're going to use a mask tool to get that effect also. So we're just going to mask out the central area, just roughly, you know, give it a little bit of a curve. And we're going to feather that so it's, you know, it's looking, it's not just sharp like that. Obviously that has no realism whatsoever, and we've got to change it to subtract rather than add, which I'll do here. So now we've got the dirt outside the windows, but it's very sharp. So what we'll do is we'll go into the mask and we'll feather it off a bit. Once we've adjusted it and getting, you know, the right kind of shape, just pull the little anchor points around, adjust the curves, just get it the way you want it. Plenty of time. Take your time with it. So yeah, we come down to the mask feather and adjust that, and now you can see there's not a sharp edge on it. We've got a nice feather effect to a cleaner area in the center of the window. However, I did find that once I added the feather, you can see it was going a little bit too close to the inner sides of the window, to the middle of the window. So I'm just going to adjust them again, get them a little bit further to the periphery. And yeah, that looks good, but the opacity on the edges is a little bit too high, so I'm going to adjust that. And to do that, we go back to the actual layer and transform, and then adjust the opacity. Bring that down so you've just got a hint of dirt to the edge of the window and a nice clear center area. Just gives that little extra realism. But wait, there's more. Yes, there's more. We're going to give some detail to the outside, so add that realism, and we're going to add an aeroplane wing. So I've got a wing prepared here. It's just a two-dimensional wing, like so. And it looks a little bit odd, doesn't match the scene at all. So what we're going to do is we're going to click here to select a 3D layer. So now we can move it around in 3D space. So instead of just being straight up and down, we can bring the angle to a more realistic angle for a wing to the scene, but also we can move it in and out of the scene in 3D to get it exactly positioned where we want it. So as you can see here, one of the actors has disappeared as I'm moving it around in 3D. We got the wing to the angle, more or less the angle we want, so now we're going to push it outside of the plane, because the wing is not inside the plane. It wouldn't work very well for the start. So still wrong in 3D space, we still have to get it outside. Go on, bugger off. We're going to have it showing round about here through the window. There's not much point in putting the wing there if you can't see it. So we're going to put that out, and what I'd also do as well with this, and you'll see later, is add lighting effects for that wing that don't affect the interior as much, to give it another level of realistic awesomeness. So just move it up and down until, you know, you feel comfortable. Yeah, that's probably where you would see a wing. That's how big it would look, etc. You know, you can make it more obvious as being a wing, but you're making it smaller and it might not match the scale, or you can make it larger and hope that the viewer can actually figure out what on earth it is you've got out there. So generally the wings are lower, especially in commercial airliners. Some of the smaller planes have the wings above the cockpit, but not with commercial ones. None that I'm aware of anyway. So we're just moving it around, just getting the right shape, the right position, right size, and get it to a position where you're comfortable. And yeah, that's starting to look right. So really, for the purpose of this tutorial, that's about it. There's a million and one other things we could actually do with this project to give it some more realism. You know, I could change the lighting for the wing, as I said, and for the interior I could add some smoke to give the impression of go through the clouds. You can take a video of the person's face and add a reflection, but it's good for now. So what we're going to do is we're going to export it and add it to the render queue and render this scene out, and once that's done, should look the biz. I generally then take it over to Adobe Premiere and, you know, adjust the scene there. A lot of people will do the whole editing work within After Effects, but I do, yeah, there's a lot of tools that I'm used to and I like to use within Adobe Premiere that really allows me to get the look that I want. But there you go, you can see we're coming into land from a very simple movie. It looks quite effective.